What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and the Android battle is really heating up. There are a lot of hot Android devices on the market, and it's tough to choose between not only the carrier-subsidized devices that you see on Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, and T-Mobile, but also some of the unlocked ones that are available overseas. This is going to be a hot dogfight because it's the Samsung Galaxy S2 versus the T-Mobile G2x. One of the best Android devices ever, one of the best Android devices in the United States. Now this baby is $800, roughly $800 to import and bring in, whereas this one you can get subsidized on T-Mobile for $199. So while this one may be better in terms of features, in terms of power, $200 is pretty sweet and kind of hard to pass up. Which one's the best one to go with? We're going to find out that and more in the dogfight. But first, special thanks to our gang over at Best Buy. They're always great, and they're hooking us up with some cool smartphones that we can give to you. Who knows, the T-Mobile G2x could be yours if you win in one paw. When you go to Best Buy Mobile, you walk out working. They'll help you set up all this stuff you see on the home screen, market, email, web, and more, so you're taken care of and you walk out the door working. But enough of that, let's get into it. Dogfight, Samsung Galaxy S2, T-Mobile G2x. Which one's the best? Which one's the best bang for the buck? We'll figure it out. Two awesome Android devices, one available in Europe, one available in the US, one really expensive because you have to import it, one that's available subsidized through T-Mobile for a pretty reasonable price. Here's the Samsung Galaxy S2. It's not available in the US just yet, so it's not available subsidized from a carrier with a 2-year agreement. So if you want to purchase this, you can through an online retailer like Expansis USA or some of the others on the internet. The downside, it runs between $750 and $800 with shipping. So it's a very expensive device, and I'm going to spoil the dogfight a little bit. This is by far, in my opinion, the best Android device on the market. The downside is the cost. I mean, $800 for a cell phone is a little bit much even for a phone geek. And then you have the T-Mobile G2x, $199.99 through T-Mobile, very fast. Both have dual-core processors. This is running Android 2.2. This is running Android 2.3 with TouchWiz. But you know, it's an older version of Android, but still very, very fast, and it's available for 200 smackers on T-Mobile. So something to keep in mind, you know, a little bit cheaper, almost as powerful, and really when you get into the speed that these devices are running, the power, you can't really see it. It's one of those things, you know, when something gets so fast that it doesn't matter if it's a millisecond faster or not. That's really what I've been seeing with both of these devices. But to give you a run through the specs here, Samsung Galaxy S2, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Exynos processor, has a 4.3-inch Super AMOLED Plus display, has an 8-megapixel camera on the back with a flash, and if you'll notice, you're thinking, hey, it looks pretty similar. I actually don't have the Infuse in front of me. But if you're wondering, it looks pretty similar, well, it's because the Infuse on the back looks almost exactly the same. A little bit of a different color scheme, a little larger because it has a 4.5-inch display, but looks very similar. So front-facing camera as well, Android 2.3 with Samsung TouchWiz 4.0, so it's running the newest version of Samsung's TouchWiz user interface, and it's much improved over something like 3.0, where to me it looked like a little bit of much of a work in progress or something like that. This seems much more fluid, much more refined, and you can really tell that they went back to the drawing board with this one. So I mean, a really awesome device. It's 8.49 millimeters thick, so very thin. It has a traditional Samsung hump at the bottom, and then you see on the right side the power button. Can't talk today. Power button, volume rocker on the left side, micro USB charging port on the bottom, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the top. So I mean, it's a hot looking device. It feels good. It's very thin, but again, it's definitely pricey. Then the T-Mobile G2x is over here, 1 gigahertz dual-core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor, 4-inch display, so a little bit of a smaller display, but definitely fits well in the hand. And, you know, if you watch my videos, I often argue that 4 inches is that magical sweet spot between, you know, 2 small 3.7 inches, 2 large 4.3, and then Gigantor 4.5-inch display, which you've seen on the Infuse 4G. So this is a nice balance between the two, and it has an 8-megapixel camera as well. I cannot talk today. And both of these are capable of shooting 1080p video. So keep that in mind. You know, 720p is kind of the norm right now. So these do go one step further by allowing for 1080p HD video recording. Front-facing camera on this as well. A little bit of a different design. Kind of has a hump at the top of the camera, kind of like the Droid X and the Droid X2. Then you have your volume rocker over on the right, micro USB charging port, and speakers on the bottom. Nothing on the left side. And then on the top you have your HDMI port, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and power button. So it's a good looking device. 1,650 milliamp battery over here, 1,500 milliamp battery over here. Now obviously this is a 1.2 gigahertz device. It may be a little bit more powerful, but again, 1,500 on this one with a 1 gigahertz dual-core processor. I was a little concerned at first that the battery life wouldn't make it, but I was actually pleasantly surprised on both of these devices. The battery life's a little better on the Galaxy S2, but was definitely surprised on the G2X as well. So to dive into the software, Android 2.3, like I said here, Android 2.2 over here. Now this is a stock build of Android 2.2. There are no customizations, save for a couple of T-Mobile things. You'll see like App Pack, a couple of applications, which we'll jump right into. App Pack, Highlight, My Account, My Device, T-Mobile TV, video chat, visual voicemail, Wi-Fi calling, and this is mobile hotspot capable as well through the settings. We'll go down here to wireless and networks and go to tethering and portable hotspot. So you can use this as a hotspot if you have, provided that you have the right plan. So a few T-Mobile things with it, nothing big, but those things can't be uninstalled, so that's something to keep in mind. Now this, unlocked device, unbranded device, there's no carrier bloatware on this because it's not assigned to a carrier, it's unlocked and unbranded, but it is running Samsung's TouchWiz 4.0. Now, oftentimes, the old story is that manufacturer installed overlays slow the device down. Not the case at all. Here, you can see how incredibly fast this is. Thanks to that dual-core processor, just a dream. Scrolling through here, very, very clean, very easy. Absolutely love it. And it's very fast. Now, out of the box, the icons are a little bit unorganized, but you get clock, music, internet, typical Android stuff. And you'll notice that the icons not only have changed, but if you remember TouchWiz 3.0, they had that boxy iPhone-like look or iOS-like look, and they've done away with that. Now, they still scroll from left to right on TouchWiz like iOS, but they've done away with the boxes, and they've done away with the little dock down here. It kind of hangs in space. Well, literally, if you look at my background, but it kind of hangs in space as opposed to the box and then the actual static dock. So you can see what comes on it. Some Google stuff. You have Samsung Social Hub, Music Hub, Readers Hub, and Game Hub. Separate hubs, obviously, as they sound. Social Hub for connecting with your friends, Music, Readers, and Game Hub as well. Hopefully we'll see some more hubs in the future. My Files, Video, All Share, Keys. I'm not sure if it's Keys or Kai's Air, which is a Samsung thing. Voice Command, Voice Talk. And we'll go over here. Samsung Apps. It's a dedicated Samsung App Store. Then you have IM, Suggest, BBC iPlayer. Now the interesting thing, because this is a UK device, you'll find programs like BBC iPlayer, and when you start them up to watch it, you'll see BBC iPlayer is only available within the United Kingdom. So there are some things on this device that's kind of the consequence of buying a device that's unlocked and unbranded from another country. In addition to the charger that might not work out of the box, you see some programs that may not work either. And then of course some things that I've installed as well out of the box. So anyway, TouchWiz 4.0, huge improvement over the original. Actually, I just realized the Infuse is in front of me, so I can go ahead and pull this over and give you a comparison just between the two. This isn't, I'm not adding this to the Dogfight, but I just want to show you the difference between how they look, or how it looks on 3.0 and how it looks on 4.0. So you can see those minor differences between the two, but where I really want to show you is when you're doing things like adding a widget. We'll press and hold, and it brings up that typical Android widget screen, add to home screen. But when you press and hold here, you can see it pops up in the bottom, and while keep an eye on that, you can see how that's there. You can still scroll through the home screens back and forth while you're looking at widgets. So going to widgets, you can scroll over, bring up one there if I wanted to, and more. So just a little bit more customization. Kind of has a tablet feel to it, if you will, but you can really tell they've done their homework with TouchWiz 4.0 and just made it so much more user-friendly. Actually, I didn't mean to jump out of that. Let me go back into widgets. And you can see just when scrolling through the widgets how they turn from side to side, kind of like a music track. Like you're pushing it back depending on which way you're going. So just so fluid, and you'll notice, I mean, look how quickly I'm scrolling through here with no lag whatsoever. Just how fluid and clean everything looks. Now you have 7 home screens here on TouchWiz. You can do the same thing as you can in past versions and things like HTC Sense. Pinch. Go ahead and bring those down and go to a different home screen if I want to. I can remove things, but I'll go back to that, and then you can see what the notification bar looks like, not only as a result of TouchWiz 4.0, but Android 2.3, a little bit different here, kind of a neon green / gray color scheme. I am running on AT&T. Now, for those that have asked me for the Galaxy S2, which bands in the US it'll run on for 3G, if you have AT&T, you're good to go. If you have T-Mobile, it does not support the AWS band, which is 1700 megahertz, which is what T-Mobile uses. So if you do have a T-Mobile device, you're welcome to pop your SIM card in it, and it'll work, but it'll only work to Edge. It will not go to 3G, but you can see the color scheme there. Now you have stock Android over here, Android 2.2, and it's a plain Jane experience. I mean, you see over here 5 home screens, the typical ones, which I can either press there or I can press there, scroll between those. But again, performance exceptionally fast, and you can see how quickly the apps load on this device as well. So it's no slouch. It's an awesome device as well, but it's running stock Android as opposed to TouchWiz over Gingerbread. Now you can see that at the home screen, the widgets menu here is exactly the same as stock Android, and actually the same as TouchWiz 3.0 as well. And you get those stock Android widgets like picture frame, power control. It's funny when I shoot videos like this and I'm talking about vanilla Android, I try to count how many times I say stock, because there's really no other way to describe it. You know, original Android, plain Jane Android. I'll try to come up with some better ways of saying it throughout the video. But anyway, you know, widgets as a result of it being plain Jane, froyo. Things like YouTube, power control, picture frame, news and weather, things like that. And then in addition to your 5 home screens, got those down there. You have your dock with phone calls, app drawer, and internet browser. Now, your notifications bar, here's what it looks like. Very ho-hum, very plain Jane as a result of it being original Android. Maybe I won't do the voice inflections, but you get the idea. Different color scheme here. It's that typical Android 2.2 gray color scheme. But again, just look at the speed in which I'm loading this. I mean, it's very, very fast. There's no lag whatsoever, just like there's no lag on this device either. So both are very fast. And even though this is running, you know, it's impressive over here because even though it's running a carrier or manufacturer installed overlay, it's still just as fast.